All right, we're picking up in Chapter 13 where we left off in the previous video. We are currently at the top of page 480 working on the try it out exercise. All right, so we're going to be creating another web form now. So that one's going to be called Add, Edit, Review. It's going to go into the management folder as the previous ones did. So we're just going to give it a right click, add new item, and then choose web form. Make sure you choose the right language. And we're basing it on our base page, right? No. Remember, the management page has its own master, right? And this was add, edit, review, is that correct? Add, edit, review.
What's based on the master of management?
Based on the management master, that's correct. Management master. And say OK. There's our ASPX page. And I'm going to pull this off to the other screen here. They want us to jump into design view. And then in the data section, okay, so here I have my students cursing me out while I'm recording a video. Thanks, Sam. Okay, Tom, you're absolutely right. I'll type in the title. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. So people that are watching this video right now are wondering what the heck's going on in that classroom.
Actually, that's good, because it really is. It's going to be about following details when you get a job. Following damn details.
Right. And then the reality of it will be, I would forget to do this on the job, and then I'd go, why isn't it working? Oh yeah, I never put a title in. Okay, so the title is now in. Control S to save. Switching to design mode. And from the data section of the toolbox, I am now going to grab details view and drop it into the content section. All right, our next instruction here says on the Smart Task panel, and mine did collapse, so I'm clicking on it here. We are going to choose a new data source. So we're going to come here and click, then choose this option, and then our dialog comes up. We are going to choose a SQL database, just like we did previously. I believe they want us to just keep the default here for the name. We already have our connection string in place. And then we get to this screen here. And this is where we need to make some changes. So first thing we're going to have to do is we have to click on Review. And then we're going to uncheck the asterisk option at the top where everything's going to be selected. And we're going to select everything but Create Date Time. So all the other boxes will be selected.
What is behind unchecking that asterisk?
Well, when you have that asterisk checked, the asterisk is a way to represent everything.
Okay.
So it's
So
all.
they want you to choose everything.
Yeah.
You just leave it as is.
We could, but they're asking us not to. And I think the reason for that is they don't really care when a review was created per se, but they're more interested in when it was changed or updated.
Yes, sir.
That was by intent. That's the one I want unchecked. All right, next thing we want to do is we want to come over to the right side here, and we're going to click the Where clause, the Where button. And see, I'm thinking in SQL terms, so I said a Where clause. And this is where we're going to start to build an expression. So we're going to choose ID. The operator is going to be equal. We are going to do a query. We're going to type in ID right here. All the rest of this seems okay. Go ahead and click Add, and then that adds it to this little spot here, and then finally click OK. Then if you come back in here and you look at the revised SQL statement that was generated, it shows you, really, basically, this is doing the work for you. It's taking the effort out of manually typing in a SQL string. That's pretty cool, really. If only you had that in your advanced database class, right? All right, so now that you have that SQL statement set, go ahead and click OK. Or next, excuse me. Then they want us to test the query. So let's do that. Let's just make sure that it does something. All right, well, I didn't put any criteria in, did I?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do that again. What was the value we were putting in before? 2? Yeah, there we go. And then that brings some, so we know it's doing something and it's working, so it seems to be okay. All right, click Finish, close out the box, and that takes us back to our page. All right, the next thing that we want to do is, it says here on the Smart Task panel for the Details view, select the options for inserting and editing as shown in Figure 1317, which is enable inserting and editing. So where do I do that from? I don't see that. Here? Here? Okay. You've done this before, Aaron, obviously. No, that's what we just did.
Now click an empty spot on the page and design view to set up a page level in.
Okay. All right. So in glorious fashion and skipping a step, I skipped right over step 6 and went to step 7, so I'm back on step 6. Thank you, students, for correcting me. We're going to click on the Configure Data Source this time, and this time click on Advanced, and we do need to click this little button here to make this available. Remember, the point of that little action is to allow for all the default database operations to be available from the page. So all the CRUD operations, you remember what CRUD stands for? Create, retrieve, update, and destroy or delete. So those are what we consider standard database operations for any data entry or record. Go ahead and click Finish. All right, so now we can click on Enable Inserting and Editing. Right. Notice we're not enabling deleting, which is kind of interesting. So if we wanted, we could give them that capability. We actually remove the reviews. But I think that the point or the thought process here is that we can edit. So if somebody types in something offensive, we can edit it. Now, I would think you'd probably want to delete it, but it's a matter of preference, I suppose. All right. Next step. So now we're on which step, Tom?
We are on step number 8.
Step number 8. In the properties grid for the details view, set default mode to insert. So that's going to be right here. So instead of read only, we will have the capability to insert, so we can actually add a record. And then we want to actually click anywhere in the blank spot of a page in design view, and that will automatically create the page load method in the code behind file. They have a little bit of code for us at the top of page 482 they want us to add. Simple little if statement. So what this is saying is basically that if whatever you're requesting happens to exist, if it is something that is, then we will actually go into the default view mode for edit. So if it doesn't, then it's not going to be able to. That's kind of the thinking here. All right, next step number 10, up into design view. So we're going to go back to the page and click on design view, and then drag the add edit ASPX page from the solution explorer. Oh wait, I'm wrong page. We want to be on the reviews page in design view. And then we're going to drag the whole page that we just created, and it's going to go below all the stuff that's already on the page. So basically we're going to pick it up and I'm going to drop it like right here. So watch what happens. Am I grabbing the right one? No, this one is the one I want. We're on this page. I'm grabbing that one and I'm going to drop it. And what it does is it automatically forms a connection for us. We're going to switch over to markup view now. We're going to tweak this so that instead of it just saying add edit review ASPX, we're going to actually put in some text that's a little bit more meaningful, which is insert new review. All right. Next step that they want us to do is save all the pages, so hit the Save All button. And then they want us to open up the page we just created in the browser. So I'm just giving it a right click and then View in Browser. And I have an error. Does anybody else have an error?
No.
Okay, let's figure out. Oh, it looks like our database connection is not working.
You need to go back to step 10.
All right. So since we ran into a problem, what I did at this point is I went back, deleted all the stuff that we just did, and recreated it, and now it seems to be working. I am recording. Then they want us to fill it in, so they want us to say this is the title. What's today's date? 11, 12? 13. Oh yeah, it is 13, isn't it? Now, if we're lucky, we should be able to see that, right?
At first, not much seems to happen.
Is that what the book says?
Yeah.
First, not much seems to happen, except the controls are now all clear. However, you can locate the new review through the Reviews ASPX page following these two steps. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to click Manage Reviews, select the genre from the drop-down list. We entered one, so that stands for, it says rap and hip-hop, but rap and hip-hop is at the bottom, isn't it? It is rap, hip-hop, and country, so. Aha. Well, you know, it doesn't matter too much as long as we can get to that spot, right? All right, so let's take a look. And here's the one I just created, so you can see that it now exists. Now, even though these seem like pretty simplistic actions, this is actually, you know, in terms of web application development, this is a pretty sophisticated thing we're doing because we're reading and writing to a database. And really the limited number of steps that we just took to be able to do this, if you've written in PHP, for example, some of you are either taking that concurrently right now or haven't taken it yet, or maybe you've already taken it, and you remember all the steps that we would do in PHP class to write out the SQL statement and set everything up and tie it to the database, and oh my God, it was really a pain. This is really significantly easier. But there is still a level of understanding that happens kind of in between all the steps, and that part shouldn't be neglected. So thus far, we're pretty successful here. So we're going to move on to the next exercise, which is just a mere page away. So we're at the top of page 484. And we're going right back to the same spot. So we're going to bring up the Add, Edit, Review, but we're going to be in Design View. So make sure you're there. Then they want us to edit fields. So I'm clicking the little panel expander, and then I'm going to click on Edit Fields. And they want us to find update date time. And they want to choose it from down here. And then we need to find the property on the right called visible. So that's right here. And we're going to set that to false. So basically what we're doing, and you can probably anticipate this, is we're going to hide that component of it because maybe they're saying they don't care, or we don't care. I would think that would be useful, but you know, that's a matter of opinion. Oh, I don't think I was supposed to click out of there all that quick. All right, so let's go back. So we changed the visible to false. And then they want us to click on the title column, and and then click the blue link with the convert. Okay, and we want to do that for summary, body, and genre ID. So summary, body, and genre ID. I'm clicking on convert this into a template field. So basically, in other words, it's turning it into kind of like the blueprint that we're going to follow for all the others. Kind of the simple way to say it. When we're all done with those tasks, we're going to go ahead and click OK. And they want us to jump into source code view now. And it says add a text mode attribute with its value set to multi-line for the 4 text box controls for the summary and body fields. So basically, we're going to look for the ones that look like this. So we have an ID to work from, so I'm just going to look for those text boxes. And then you're going to notice that right after the text box 2, I'm going to add this code here. And I'm just copying and pasting it directly from the book. You can type it in too, if you prefer. That's also going to go into not just the edit one, but the insert one for each, so you can see which is which. And the thing that's important here is that it says for the 4 text box controls for the summary and body fields. So this is summary, and here's body. So you see that? That's easy to confuse, so that's why I want to make sure that you see that. All right. It says make sure you do this for both the edit item, and insert item templates for each of those. Everybody's okay? All right, I'm moving on to step number 4 on page 484. All right, I'm going to do a save at this point, and I'm going to read this next part. It says we're going to actually revisit a control we haven't used in a little while, and that's the required field validator. Remember we were applying that to our forms earlier on in the book? Okay, so we can drag and drop it directly from the toolbox right into the markup for each one of these items. That's what it says here. So let's do that. Let's get ourselves in position to do it so I have all of them in view. And then where do I find that control, folks? You guys remember? All right, and then I'm going to take this, and I'm going to drop it directly into here. Oh, that's not good. Yeah, and that's what it should be. For me, the best place to put it, I'm looking at what the book's doing too, is I would tend to put it right after that control, but this is the whole control per se. I'm going to actually try to drop it right here. Don't drop it in the middle of the code like I just did. Do this. And it's probably better to do that, and I think that's what you mean, Mark, right?
Yeah. I actually hit enter first, then
All right. Yeah, the other part of it here is they want us to add something to it. So for example, the thing that they want us to add to it is a little snippet of text that tells us which control we're actually validating. So they're adding that directly after the tag declaration right here. So you can see that this one is going to validate that one. They want us to do that now for both of those. So once again, I'm going to drop one right here. And once again, so here's where we just are going to proceed very systematically and cautiously, right? Okay, so just to kind of recap that, because I didn't have the record button pressed, the instructions were to add the required field validator attributed to the right control, text box 2 for both edit and insert for summary, and then scroll up to title. So I did the same thing in the title section. There's the field validator, the text box matches text box, field validator, text box, text box. That's just a quick little recap. At this point, we are going to take a break because we're halfway through, so I'm going to hit the pause button, and then we'll come back in 5 minutes. All right, folks, I just hit record again, just in case you're curious. And one of the students here in class pointed out, and rightly so, that in step 4, they don't really highlight it and tell you to change it, but there's an error message that gets attached to all the validators. And if you don't change it, it ends up reading like this, which isn't very useful to your user. So you can go in there and just put in something else. And I'm just going to type in enter information. And I'm going to put that in all of those because that's kind of a nice generic little message. I think that covers all of them. Okay. And then save it. Now this exercise, this is the last try it out exercise in this chapter, and it is a long one. but we're a good way of the way through it now. So we just completed step 4. And you really want to read this carefully if you're doing this on your own. I know the people watching the video clearly will be, and even probably the people here in class. But at least you have watched me fumble through it so that you know how to fumble through it on your own. But they give you this particular piece of information here. Make sure you read that pretty carefully. So now we're at the top of page 485 on step 5. So I'm going to pull this back off to the other screen now. And in this step, they want us to jump back over to design view, so let's do that. And it says drag and use SQL data source control next to the SQL data source 1 control. So that would mean right down here, right down in the space where you see my cursor. So we want to go to the data area, SQL data source. We're just going to drop it right there. We're going to set up a new data source. We're going to connect up to Planet Rocks. Go ahead and click Next. We're going to switch to genre, which we already have, and then we're just going to select ID and name. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to set up a sort order. So we'll click on the Order By button. And let's see what it asks us to do here. So we're going to set up sort order. And I think that's all I want us to do. So we're not going to see the sort order information, it's just going to happen. And we're going to sort by that sort order. And then hopefully when you're all done, your SQL statement looks like that. It shouldn't be any more complicated than that. Go ahead and click Next, then click Finish to close this out. All right, next steps, it says select the new SQL data source. Okay, it's already selected. And okay. So how do I do that in Design View, Tim? Ah. And it wants to say genre data source. And then press enter to lock it in, or tab. Now they want us to jump over to source code view. Okay, locate the insert item template. And I'm just going to do a find on that. Insert item. And there it is. Okay, is that the right one then? Does that imply that there's more than one? There certainly is, but which is the right one? Well, the one that says genre ID. But, you know, I want you guys to also be aware, we're starting to work with a code that's getting a little bit longer now. That tools, like the find tool, are pretty useful. And I know a lot of people know about them, so I don't need to patronize you on the usage of it. But a lot of people don't ever use the find tools that are available in their file systems, in their documents, on their web pages, and it's such a useful tool. And the way that you invoke this is you just do a Control F, you type in a search phrase, and then you can kind of step through all the different items that come up. It's really kind of a good way to narrow things down quickly. So if you're not aware of that tool, it's a good time to acquaint yourself with it. So here we are in the genre ID, and we want to remove the contents from the drop-down list.
No, it's really the context of the text box control.
Okay. For insert.
Text box and a drop-down list.
So out of the insert item template, for genre ID, we're just going to get rid of that item. And now this next piece of code, I'm actually going to copy paste the code in because I'm in code view, so it just seems easier to me. But you could also either manually do it or drag a control in if that's what serves you best. I'm doing a control S to save, by the way, so I don't mess up what we have. Okay, we'll jump over to design view. And now it says right click the details view and choose edit template field for genre ID. So where is that? Well, this is the details view. The whole thing is the details view. This whole box. All right. So right click, edit template. I don't see that. So where is it? Okay. Oh, still. There we go. That's kind of odd because let's try right click in here. No, it happens there too. I think it's because the box wasn't highlighted. I was just right clicking like that without the highlight. That's why. But if I click it, make sure I see little grab boxes there. Now I can right click it, seeing it unclicked. Yeah, that's a tricky one, isn't it? All right, so now that we're able to do that, so make sure it's highlighted, right click, and then choose field for genre ID. All right, and I think that's all we need to do in that step.
Thank you, Ted.
Bye.
Have a good day. Good weekend.
You too.
Well, it says, you can access it.
Now we're moving on to step number 10. And in step 10 it says when the control is in template editing mode, which is what we're in right now, we can access the drop-down list directly. It says open the Smart Tasks panel for the drop-down list. Right, but that's not what I'm seeing here. Why? I'm sorry, I just lost that. The little box that's up here at the top.
You gotta hit that drop-down list.
Yeah, I mean, it indicates here, template editing mode.
So now you gotta go to the drop-down list.
Okay. And then what am I looking for?
Choose data source.
I don't see that as an option.
What in the hell? Right, so
We're not getting exactly what we need to see on the screen, so I'm going to go back to step 9 and repeat the steps. All right.
Because I kept trying to select my content as organized.
Okay. This part seems okay. That completes step 9, what I just did. And we pull that up just fine. And it says when it's in template editing mode, you can access the drop-down list directly. So which part of it is the drop-down list? Okay. So now we're going to choose our data source. And now we're going to make these selections here. So genre data source. Data field is going to be
Name.
there we go. Yes, and if it doesn't pop up, you probably heard the people in the background saying click refresh. And I did. And actually, it says that right in the instructions halfway through. And what did I just do? I just clicked on something incorrectly there. Name. Okay. All right. Let's say OK once you got that. All right. Now we're going to choose Edit Data Bindings. So you see, students are in a hurry to get me done with this, so they're pushing me along. That's okay. Please continue. I think the audience is probably highly amused right now. It is recording. And the scary thing is this is going to be on YouTube as well. So just be careful what you say, folks. Once it's on Google servers, it lives forever. All right, and we're going to choose what? I don't see that. Selected value. Say OK. It says click the selected value, click, refresh. All right. Now we can find it. And that's a little quirky, and basically what it's doing is it's trying not to connect to the database unless it has to, which is kind of odd. But if you can imagine if you're working like on a production database, how that might be an issue. All right, I'm going to say OK at this point. All right. Oh, and I think I missed a step here, didn't I? Nope, I didn't. Okay, we're okay. All right, I'm moving on to step number 13 now, top of page 488. It says click OK to close the dialog box, which I've already done. And it says the source code for the insert item template should now look like what you see here, and I'm just doing a comparison on my screen, and it looks like it's matching up just fine. All right, next thing that we're going to do is we're going to copy the contents of this, so it's already highlighted, notice, which is convenient, and paste that into the edit item template, overriding the existing text box control. Just like that. On to step number 15. We're going back to design view. And then in design view it says click the details view, click, just so it's highlighted. And it says press F4. What do you suppose F4 does? Yeah, it does, right? Yeah, so they're making the assumption that maybe you don't have this turned on for some reason, and some people, you know, they choose to work that way. If you do have it turned on, it just highlights it and brings you to it. All right, so it says, and I'm trying to follow their weird instructions. Switch to the Event tab of the Properties grid and double-click the following events. Visual Studio switches to code behind file every time you double-click an event, so you need to switch back to the page using Control Tab. So we're going to go down to the Items section here. Make sure. Now, why the heck am I not seeing it? That's the question.
Yeah, yeah.
So item inserted, inserting, updated, and updating. And then the suggestion is Control Tab. Rinse, repeat. That's right. So really all that's doing is it's generating code stubs related to those events inside the code behind page automatically. And they have a little example in the book of what it should look like when you're done, and that looks just like what they have. All right. Next thing they give us here is a whole section of code that we're going to add. So this is at the bottom of page 489, the C# section. Now the thing that's interesting here is some of this we're inserting code, but we're also adding a method here, and I'm going to actually add it in the same spot where they have it. I'm going to put it below the page load and above the first details view item inserted. So I'm going to throw this in. And then for the remaining ones, we're going to throw in code that looks like this. Now, we haven't really talked about exception handling in this class. Has anybody learned about exception handling in any other classes? Java people? Who like just learned it? Explain to those that don't understand what exception handling is, tell them what it is and what's the point of it.
Well, if you run into an error, somewhere along the line, it's going to be
Right. I mean, exception handling is basically a way to allow us to allow a user to actually put bad information in and not make the program stop in its tracks. So it elegantly handles the problem that comes its way. And that's what we're doing right now. We're just putting in exception handling, and that hopefully will prevent a few little problems. It says finally save all your changes. I'm hitting the save all and open up the page in the browser. So I'm about to do that here. And here it comes. And I know they have a suggested course of action, so let's see what they say. Well, do they want us to type some stuff in or just hit insert?
Well, right now, it's just an answer. Let the validation controls kick in. Running in for signing into the things in the server. Next, fill in valid values and click insert again.
All right.
Valid value to be filled.
Well, it just threw up a message. Enter information. And I could have probably, highlight red or something, make it a little more obvious.
That was a message.
I want to click authorized. What category is this? This is going to be techno. And there it is. Yep. And like Mark was just pointing out, now that we have this here, All right, folks, that completes this chapter. At this point, all I can say is thank goodness. And this video ends here.